Welcome to the deep dive. We're going to unpack something vital today, something humming away beneath our cities. It's the essential infrastructure, the stuff we don't often see but absolutely rely on. And today we're taking a close look at a really ambitious, significant urban upgrade happening in Delhi. Some are calling it a sewer revolution aimed at totally transforming wastewater management. So our mission here is to dig into the details from the sources you've shared with us. We want to uncover the sheer scale of this project, the money involved, which is critical, the challenges it's up against, and what it all means for India's cities going forward. We'll pull out the key bits of info to help you get a quick handle on what's really going on.
And it's so important to start with the basics here. Investing in core infrastructure, things like sewage systems, it isn't just, about pipes. It's fundamental to a city's health, its environment, and really the well-being of everyone living there. If these systems aren't working properly, the fallout for people and nature can be, well, pretty severe. So a project like this one in Delhi has huge strategic weight.
Okay, with that groundwork laid, let's unpack this. The source material gives us some pretty striking specifics about Delhi's plan. It mentions a big number, 800 crore, specifically set aside for building sewers in what they call unauthorized colonies. Now that figure, 800 crore just for those areas, that seems like a very conscious choice, a deliberate policy move. What does focusing on unauthorized colonies really tell us, especially given their, let's say, complex history with city infrastructure?
That's a really key question. What's fascinating here, I think, is how this project tries to hit two major urban problems at once. First, by targeting these unauthorized colonies, which, let's be honest, often lack the most basic services, it's a clear step towards greater civic inclusion. They're aiming to connect something like 2.5 lakh households. That's 250,000 homes. That's huge from a social equity perspective. And second, there's a massive environmental win they're aiming for, protecting the Yamuna River. It's not like these are separate goals. The project basically says you can't fix the city's environmental problems without also addressing the needs of its informal settlements.
Hmm. Interesting how tightly connected those two things are.
Mm.
So it's not just about hooking people up. The plan also has a serious environmental target,
Mm.
recycling 50 million liters of water
Mm.
every day. And to do that, the infrastructure needed is pretty substantial. We're talking about building 40 new decentralized sewage treatment plants at STPs and also these crucial interceptor lines. Could you explain for our listeners what exactly are these interceptor lines? Why are they so vital for protecting a river like the Yamuna?
Sure. Interceptor lines are essentially large pipes. Their job is to intercept, to catch raw sewage before it flows straight into the river. They collect wastewater from different points, maybe along the riverbank or from drains that would otherwise just dump pollution, and they channel it towards these new treatment plants. They're vital because they act as the physical barrier, between the city's untreated waste and its rivers or lakes. They make the whole recycling and treatment idea actually feasible on a large scale. And the whole point of this effort, of course, is to drastically cut down the amount of raw sewage that's currently pouring into the Yamuna.
Right. But like any project this big, the Emblaze comes with equally big challenges. The report you shared is pretty blunt about the roadblocks. It lists things like funding gaps, audit hurdles, and execution risks. These don't sound like minor issues. Let's focus on one. Audit hurdles. What does that typically mean for a huge project in a crowded city like Delhi? Are we talking paperwork delays, strict rules, or maybe something else that can really slow things down?
Yeah, when a source mentions audit hurdles in the context of large public projects, it usually points to a whole web of issues. It could be delays getting the right permits, very strict compliance rules for environmental standards or financial transparency, or it might even be problems coordinating between different government agencies, which can really bottleneck funding release or approvals. It's not just about checking the finances. These hurdles can reflect deeper bureaucratic snags, the need for transparency, or even difficulties acquiring land, which is always tough in a packed city like Delhi. All of this directly hits how fast things get done and how much they cost.
Okay, so connecting this to the bigger picture then, that 800 crores sounds like a lot of money, but the source also notes it's, quote, just the start, especially when you look at Delhi's wider annual budget for water and sewers, which is apparently around 9,000 crore. That's a huge difference. What does that larger budget tell us about the kind of long-term commitment needed here? And why are those specific challenges, the funding, the audits, the execution, why are they so often the make or break points for these big urban infrastructure projects everywhere?
That 9,000 crore figure definitely puts things in perspective. The initial 800 crore While significant, is clearly just a slice of the city's total yearly spend in this area. It suggests this sewer revolution isn't a one shot deal. It has to be an ongoing, multi stage effort needing sustained funding and, frankly, political will over many years. And those challenges you mentioned funding, audits, execution yes, they're universally critical. They're the difference between a grand plan on paper and something that actually works and lasts in the real world. They can stall projects, blow up budgets, or even weaken how effective the system is long term if they're not managed really carefully. They're basically the friction points where ambition meets the hard reality of implementation.
So for you listening, understanding these big city planning efforts and all their messy complexities, it can really change how you see sustainable development and public policy, especially in rapidly growing cities, not just in India, but really anywhere. It highlights this tricky dance between having a big vision, finding the resources, and doing all that often invisible work that keeps our cities running and hopefully improving. Okay, so pulling all these threads together now, what's the overall picture for Delhi's big sewer transformation? We've talked about the impressive goals connecting hundreds of thousands of homes, recycling huge amounts of water. It's clearly driven by wanting to include more people and help the environment. But we've also seen it's facing some very real systemic hurdles that could trip it up. Those funding gaps, the audit difficulties, the risks in actually getting it built.
Exactly. It underscores that this is an ongoing process, this urban transformation. The Delhi Project is a powerful reminder that a big vision needs more than just ambition. It absolutely has to be backed up by careful planning, robust, and crucially sustained funding strategies that go beyond just the initial money and, perhaps most importantly, effective execution on the ground to actually deliver tangible improvements to city life. Without all those elements working together, even the best ideas for improving our cities can, stumble.
Which leaves us and you with a couple of big questions to think about. Questions kind of implied by the sources we looked at. First, beyond this initial 800 crore, what really has to happen next for Delhi's sewer revolution to actually clear those hurdles and hit its ambitious targets? And second, thinking about both the promise here connecting communities, cleaning the river, and those very real challenges we discussed, should this specific model be copied in other Indian cities? And if so, what are the key lessons Delhi's experience might offer for making it work effectively across the country? It really makes you consider that intricate balance needed to transform and sustain a modern city.